Chainsaw Man is one of the most hyped anime shows of this year. Hi, I'm Dr. Maddie, one of your doctors from the UK, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at this anime and I'll be breaking down some of its scenes. We'll be looking at the illegal organ trade on the black market, I'll be answering what is Denji's underlying heart condition, and finally looking at the types of injuries you can sustain with a chainsaw. Now, spoiler ahead for anyone who hasn't yet seen episode 1. Otherwise, please like and consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any more videos like this. Otherwise, if you're ready, let's begin.
この間打った腎臓が120万、右目が30万、金玉片方打っていくらで売れたっけ？10万もしなかったんだっけ？
Okay, so first up here we're seeing the main character Denji talk about how he had to sell some of his organs on the black market just to get by. And he tells us he only gets 1.2 million yen for a kidney, which is only about $8,000. He gets 300,000 yen for an eye, which is about $2,000, and he only gets 300,000 yen, which is $700 for a testicle. If you ask me, those sound like pretty low rates. But in all seriousness, the black market is a real thing, and organ trading is one of its biggest industries. They say that it accounts for up to $1 billion a year. It's estimated that anywhere between 5 to 10% of all organs transplanted are done illegally, with up to 10,000 kidneys sold on the black market each year. Now, thanks to videos from channels like Vice, we know what the going rates for organs are on the black market, so we can compare that to what Denji was paid. For a heart or lungs, you're looking at $130,000. For a kidney or a liver, you're looking at about $100,000 a piece. And then finally, for something like your corneas, you're looking at about $30,000. And we need to remember that such an industry preys on the poorer, more desperate people within our community. And this is a really creative way to depict the backstory of Denji.
こいつはトマトの悪魔ですね。種から復活するんで焼いといてください。
よくやったデンジ。闇市でこいつの死体を売りゃ相当いい値になる。
Okay, so seemingly it looks like Denji himself actually works on this black market, selling the organs of these monsters that he ends up killing. Again, this seems like a pretty high-risk job for Denji to do, fighting monsters, but it does give us a further insight into his character. Seemingly, he doesn't have much to lose. And I love how his sidekick is a small dog with a chainsaw for a face. This kind of reminds me of an anime where the main character has a revolver for a head. Let me know down below what you would prefer to have, a revolver or a chainsaw for a head.
残りが7万。この7万から水道代を払って他んとこにしてる借金を払うと不思議だな。もう残り1800円になっちゃった。
So for all that work that Denji did there, he only ended up with 1,800 yen. That's only about $12. So far what we know about Denji is that he's a single male who lives in a shed and he earns about $12 a day and on the side sells his organs to get by. This sounds like a life of desperation. And as I said before, it's these members of society who are often preyed upon to do cheap labour or do the jobs that no one else wants to do. All of these little details are a clever way of establishing a backstory for who Denji goes on to become in this anime.
今月の分も払わねえうちに首つりやがってガキ物乞いするなり体を売るなりして明日まで70万用意しろ
Okay, so it looks like that debt that he was paying back wasn't in fact his own, but his father's, and it looks like his father had committed suicide, leaving this for Denji to deal with. You know, it's interesting and really unfortunate as the research shows that the impact of parental suicide of a child at this age is devastating when compared to a young adult. It increases their risk of suicide as well as a range of other psychiatric mental health conditions. There's just something about experiencing trauma at this age where the brain is still maturing and it causes it to mold itself and structure itself in a completely different way.
お前を助けてやるから。俺を助けろ。
So here we see the introduction of Denji to his little chainsaw dog. But we're also seeing that Denji's beginning to develop the classical features of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, with him having flashbacks of his dad hanging dead. Normally in PTSD, people have repeated unwanted and intrusive thoughts where they relive their experience of trauma. It can actually be so bad that people experience physical pain related to that traumatic event. But fortunately, meeting this dog, it looks like it's the start of an epic friendship and adventure for Denji. Okay, so here we see Denji coughing up some blood, and he then goes on to say that his mother died of a heart condition that led to the same thing. But what sort of heart condition could this be? Well, inherited heart problems like this are likely to be affecting the underlying structure of the heart. Now, the heart's made up of two sides, the left and right, and these are split up into one of two chambers, which are separated by valves. Now, the right side of the heart normally pushes blood to the lungs to get oxygen. It then comes back to the left side, which is then pushed around your body. However, there is a condition where one of these valves on the left side of the heart, called the mitral valve, is a bit narrower than it should be. Now, as a result, this leads to a back pressure of blood through into the lungs, which can sometimes rupture the small capillaries, leading you to cough up blood. And we call this condition mitral stenosis. Now, I think this is the most likely diagnosis, and this is because I've had first-hand experience with treating patients with this condition. But really, it could be any condition that leads to a back pressure of blood into the blood vessels in the lungs. Now, if it is mitral stenosis, this can be treated with a valve repair, and people can be put on medication to help reduce the pressure in the blood vessels in the lungs. But in a society like this, and with Denji's job, I doubt he'd be able to afford it.
デンジよ、俺たちはてめえに感謝してんだぜ。
Oh god, so they've both effectively been shish kebabbed. A blade straight through the abdomen like this would have perforated the aorta, the main blood vessel in the body. So long as he doesn't pull that blade out, he shouldn't die straight away, but it's not looking good. This kind of reminds me of a condition of a patient I've seen called a ruptured aortic aneurysm, and what occurs here is that this aorta is slowly dilates as a result of high blood pressure. Now, it does so to a point where it then splits and you bleed into your abdomen. Now, you wouldn't believe it, but such patients can survive this type of condition. They just need urgent medical and surgical care. God, what a brutal and sad way for Denji to die. I mean, he's had a sad past full of trauma, and now he dies by getting stabbed to death. Some people just have no luck, but I bet you this is going to make his comeback that much sweeter.
普通の暮らしをして普通の死に方をしてほしい。俺の夢を叶えてくれよ。
Oh god, he's been completely dismembered and then thrown into a dumpster. I can't imagine a more humiliating death. But this second scene, almost a dream sequence, is quite touching, where we see Denji and his relationship with his pet chainsaw dog. Their relationship kind of reminds me of the one between Miggy and the main character from the Parasite anime. By the way, if you haven't seen that one, it's a great watch. Okay, so his pet dog seems to have brought him back together, and I like that little detail where you're seeing the chains of the chainsaw bringing the limbs back to the body. That's very creative. But also, it looks like he's replacing Denji's heart here and possibly curing him of his heart condition. And just as a little detail, we see that Denji's no longer wearing his eye patch either, so presumably he's having all of those organs returned to him. And I'm sorry to say this again, but this is very similar to a scene in the Parasite anime where the main character gets stabbed in the heart and Miggy saves his life. These stories, they don't have the same authors, do they?
傷が
Oh, and his dog is gone here, but what a clever metaphor in making him his renewed heart, as it was clearly his little pet dog that gave Denji happiness. And I also like the fact that they put the lever here for the chainsaw over his heart, because it's great symbolism. You know, the heart is a bit like a motor or a pump, pumping blood around the body. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it kind of makes sense to put it there.
邪魔すんなら死ね
Oh, that looks like a painful transformation, with saws splitting through your hands and your head. But what an absolute massacre here of his enemies, with limbs flying everywhere. But you know, this whole story kind of reminds me of a patient case that I saw, where a chainsaw went the whole way through his neck and he survived the injury. And I remember this because there was quite an impressive x-ray of the injury, with this being the chainsaw. I mean, it was clearly a freak accident, but this guy must be one of the luckiest patients out there with the best anime plot armor I've ever seen. You know, I can't quite believe what I've just watched, but the animation here is almost CGI-like and it looks great, and the sound design for that chainsaw is spot on. I have to say though, every chainsaw injury that I've seen in real life is absolutely horrible. And the reason for this is that if you get cut by a knife, typically the wound is straight and it's easy then to close back up. However, if you get cut by a chainsaw, because it's a toothed piece of machinery, it tends to rip apart the flesh and underlying structures, making it incredibly difficult to repair. Anyone who's thinking of using a chainsaw, please make sure to handle it with care. Otherwise, you'll be coming to see me. Okay, so in the end it looks like Denji's chainsaw form melted away as he began to calm down. I guess it must be his emotions that helped to fuel this form. Let's hope we see more of his rage moments in the coming episodes. Anyway, so far I'm really enjoying this show and I hope you guys are too. If there's any other aspect of the series that you'd like me to break down, please leave those down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you want to continue watching, I'd recommend one of these two videos. And if you do click on one of them, I'll see you very soon. Otherwise, for the rest of you, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.